Welcome to this webinar, Accelerate FinOps Results for Data Analytics. I'm Clinton Ford, FinOps Certified Practitioner and Director of Product Marketing at Unravel. And I'm joined today by Lindbergh Matillano, an ambassador from the FinOps Foundation and Director of Cost Optimization at Avalara. Great to have you with us today, Lindbergh.
Thank you, Clinton. Great to be here.
Yeah, we've just seen so much interest in this topic around FinOps. For example, at the recent Gartner Data and Analytics Summit in Orlando, this was a topic covered in many of the different presentations by analysts. And as we spoke with customers, we heard they were also experiencing just a tremendous need for this capability. So excited to dive into this topic with you today. So let's jump right in. We're going to cover a variety of interesting different topics, and we're going to start with this trend of the growing interest in FinOps and why it's becoming more important than ever. Next, we'll delve into the challenges that come up with adopting cloud technology and show you how FinOps can help you and your team overcome them. And you'll learn how to maximize your cloud investments and achieve better business outcomes, as well as hear some inspiring success stories from companies that have put these principles into action. And then we'll open up for questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Lindbergh, and you can give us an overview of FinOps.
Thank you, Clinton. So I'm going to start off with a few statistics that may be eye-opening for some organizations. So worldwide, Gartner predicts that end users are going to spend over $600 billion in the public cloud in 2023. And this represents at least 20% growth annually over the past few years on public cloud spending. So public cloud spending continues to accelerate. Interestingly, if you double click into the data, you'll also see that database platforms is actually growing at 25% more, faster clip than public cloud spending. So despite the economic headwinds in front of us, we're seeing more and more organizations continue to invest in the cloud and database management tooling, primarily so that they can gain insights to help them drive revenue and cut costs. Despite this growth, you're seeing a lot of technology chiefs, the CIOs and CTOs, look to their teams to wrangle cloud costs. And you're seeing this a lot now in the news, in blogs. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll generally see some sort of post on how to manage your cloud costs. So it's gaining a lot of attention. Some other statistics on this is that Flexera did a survey in late 2022, talking about that 82% of enterprises are putting managing cloud costs as their top priority, surpassing cybersecurity for the first time in at least 5 years. IDC came out with another survey early this year or late last year that found 70% of enterprises plan to make their teams more adept at managing cloud costs into 2024. So this is, like I said before, this isn't surprising given the economic uncertainty and organizations looking to be more streamlined. So one of the things that teams are looking to do to manage these cloud costs is adopting FinOps. So for those that aren't familiar with FinOps, it's an evolving financial management practice and cultural practice that seeks to enable organizations to maximize the business value of the cloud. And they do this by helping engineering, finance, and business teams to collaborate and make data-driven spending decisions. So the FinOps Foundation's mission really is to create connections with various practitioners from different organizations, advance those practitioners on a personal level, giving them training, sharing insights, and then empowering organizations and individuals with best practices as they connect with their peers. So the FinOps Framework is built on 6 domains. understanding cloud costs, tracking, making decisions in real time, optimizing cloud rates, optimizing usage, and organizational alignment. And these 6 things are enabled by principles, personas, and various phases. So in 2023, the top challenge for organizations, and for the second time in a row actually, is empowering engineers to take action. And empowering engineers to take action means giving them the tools they need to make cost management decisions. So I'm going to turn it over to Clinton to talk more about these challenges, especially in the data FinOps world.
Thank you so much, Lindbergh. It's so exciting to see the FinOps momentum and the success that organizations are starting to see as they make this cultural shift that you described. And so I'm excited to share an update from the perspective of data teams and just how DataOps and FinOps are so complementary. All right, so let's dive in and take a look at some of the numbers from a recent survey that we did. In January, Unravel hosted our annual Data Team Summit, and attendees there, including practitioners and leaders from technical and the business roles in data engineering, data science, finance, and executive leaders, responded to a survey that we provided to attendees to just learn more about the trends that they are seeing. And a few takeaways that really stood out. First of all, cloud spending has become a high priority KPI for both executives and for data teams. And cloud data resources are just not being fully utilized. Lots of opportunity there to optimize the usage. And data teams are responsible for delivering significant revenue, tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's a lot riding on the performance of these data teams. So among the challenges that these data teams face, the first is around visibility. Simply understanding and deciphering the cloud bill can be an enormous hurdle. And then forecasting spend can be very difficult to do accurately. So, how to optimize your costs once you get visibility, there are complex dependencies, as you know, within a data pipeline. So making adjustments to resources can have downstream effects, and you don't want to interrupt the flow of those data pipelines. So one of the stats that really popped out to me, and Lindbergh, I'm sure you've seen this as well, is this number around 32% of cloud spending is wasted each year, as estimated by enterprise executives. So Lindbergh, from your experience, what have you seen in terms of cloud waste? Have you seen this on your side as well?
Yeah, I think double-digit waste is something that I've seen a lot in organizations. And talking with other FinOps practitioners, I don't think it's uncommon to achieve savings of 30+% simply by cutting down usage.
That's impressive. And then the other one that stood out as well was this notion of governance. So, governing that cloud spending can be very difficult. And with over 200 services and over 600 different instance types on AWS alone, it's difficult to define what good looks like. And so the result is that on average, organizations report their public cloud spend is over budget by about 13%. And they expect their cloud spending to increase by 29% this year. So it's something that's going to continue to flare up. So now let's talk a little bit about observability and why it matters here. So observability unlocks several important benefits. First of all, just getting visibility. It lets us understand where the spending is going and how teams are tracking towards their individual budgets. Who is that individual that's spending, what kinds of workloads are driving that spend. And then once you have that high level visibility, it's getting down to the granularity you need to see details at the data team level, by the pipeline level, and data application or product or division. And then finally, being able to forecast those spending trends out so you can give predictability to the business in terms of what your expected spend, will be going forward. So data management, as Lindbergh mentioned, represents approximately 40% of the typical cloud bill. And data management services are the fastest growing category of cloud service spending. So it's driving a lot of the incredible revenue growth that we've seen in terms of profitability and exciting new capabilities that are coming out, product innovation, and it's also driving up some cloud costs. So when you combine the best of DataOps, which is around collaborating on making data management, more optimal, improving communication and connections between the managers of data and those who are consuming the data, together with FinOps, which is this evolving financial management discipline, as Lindbergh described, then you get this notion of DataFinOps that empowers your data engineers and business teams to make better choices about your cloud usage. A FinOps approach, though, isn't just about slashing costs. Although you'll almost invariably wind up saving money, it's also about empowering data engineers and business teams to make better choices about their cloud usage and derive the most value from their modern data stack investments. So managing cloud costs consists of three general iterative phases. The first is getting visibility into where the money's going, measuring what's happening in your cloud environment and understanding what's going on at a workload-aware context. And then once you have that visibility, next, then going in and optimizing. So you can begin to see patterns emerge where you can eliminate the waste or remove inefficiencies and actually make things better. And then you can go from reactive problem solving and get to proactive problem preventing. So sustaining these iterative improvements and automating the guardrails and enabling self-service optimization to make everything more efficient in the future. Then each of these phases builds upon the previous to create this virtual cycle of continuous improvement and empowerment for individual team members, regardless of their expertise, to make better decisions about their cloud usage while still hitting their SLAs and driving business results. So in essence, this shifts the budget left and pulls this accountability for managing the cost forward. So now we just want to share a few exciting examples of FinOps success. So for example, Lindbergh, have you seen some success with your team, and have you been able to apply FinOps best practices in your organization?
Hey, thanks, Clinton. Yes, especially on the DataFinOps side, I think more when I first joined Avalara, our primary focus was on managing cloud spend. And after we got that within a manageable level, we started looking at what other areas can we apply FinOps principles. The second area that made sense was managing our costs on our data platforms. And the same principles that I apply in public cloud with FinOps, the same FinOps principles apply to database management platforms. With similar results. We saw significant decreases in cost, especially as we drove more visibility to our data teams on what their queries cost, and they were able to adjust to that.
Oh, that's spectacular. Yeah, when I was at the Gartner Summit just a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with a company is in the food distribution business. They're a global brand, and they had a single employee spin up a query that was really long running. I guess it ran the entire day. And so this query ran, and then they got a bill from the cloud provider, and the cost for that one query that ran all day long was $70,000. And so they spent the next several weeks negotiating with the cloud service provider to forgive that charge. Well, eventually they did, but it was a lesson learned there in terms of enabling these guardrails and best practices for data FinOps. Another example is a customer that we've worked with in the global healthcare industry. They discovered they were spending about twice their target spending for Amazon EMR. They knew it was going to cost more to move an on-prem analytics workload to the cloud, but they weren't expecting this. And they could manually reduce their infrastructure spending without using observability tools, but every time they did, they saw job failures start to happen as a result. So now they're paying for infrastructure and getting no business value from it. So they wanted to understand the reason why cost was so far above their expected range. And using observability tools, they were able to identify the root cause for the high costs and reduce those costs without failures. So using a FinOps approach, they were able to improve EMR efficiency by 50% to achieve their total cost of ownership goals. And using FinOps Framework, their data analytics environment became much easier to manage. They use best practices from optimizing their own cloud infrastructure to help onboard other teams. And so they were able to improve the time to value across the entire company. And then finally, I want to share another example of a global web analytics company. They used a FinOps approach to get to the level of fidelity that they needed to reduce their infrastructure costs by 30% in just 6 months. So they started by tagging the AWS infrastructure that powered their products, such as EC2 instances, EBS volumes, RDS instances, and the network traffic. And then the next step was to look by product and understand where they could get the biggest wins. As they looked across roughly 50 different internal projects, they were able to save more than $5 million per year. And after running some initial analysis, they realized that 6,000 data sources were not connected to any destinations at all, or were sent to destinations with expired credentials. So that was essentially wasted cost. They were wasting $20,000 per month on unused data infrastructure. And the team provided daily reporting on their top cost drivers that they visualized in a dashboard. And when they used this information, they were able to boost their margins as a company by 20% in just 90 days. So impressive to see the results that are possible. And let's jump now into some Q&A. So first off, from your background and experience, can you tell us a little bit about what does a typical FinOps team look like? In other words, who's on it? What roles do they have? And where in the organization do they come from?
Yeah. So a typical FinOps organization or team is usually a centralized team with expertise in financial management and technical operations. The roles can vary. We have program managers or engineers from a FinOps perspective. At Avalara, FinOps is a multidisciplinary program that's centralized within the CTO organization with experience and expertise in analysis, financial management, program management, as well as has access to technical resources like software developers and DBAs. At Avalara, we actually practice a hub and spoke model with the core FinOps team within program management function, and then working with the technical resources across various CTO teams.
Oh, that's really awesome. And then from your background and experience, as you look at FinOps teams, what are the first 3 things that you would say an organization needs to do to get started with FinOps?
Yeah, I think the first 3 things an organization really needs to do, and the most important piece, is really establish a FinOps culture. It's important that to get buy-in across the organization and the company and get an executive sponsor. This is really an important step. The second thing is to hire the right leader for FinOps. So regardless of title, FinOps is a leadership position. This leader has to influence stakeholders across the organizations in various seniority levels. The second thing, or the third thing really is, the second and third thing, I guess, is to establish regular reporting and cadence so you can review costs. So having that cost visibility is really the second important thing. And then lastly, selecting the appropriate tools. So cloud native tools at first work well when you're starting. And then eventually, as the program establishes itself, there may be reporting and process gaps that identify additional tooling may be required in order to scale both people and processes.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Now, as you've been experienced with these FinOps teams and creating FinOps culture within an organization, what are some of the unique challenges that you see with FinOps for data? So data FinOps versus other cloud workloads?
I think there's two unique challenges really for FinOps for data. One is FinOps for data, or the practice of it, is still developing. Many data platforms don't have cost visibility built in. So that's the first unique challenge. The second challenge really is data platforms are often more susceptible to unintended cost increases. So for example, a misplaced asterisk in a query can end up costing a company tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think those are the two unique things, unique challenges, FinOps for data experiences.
That's great. Thanks for sharing those. So now, as you think about the top challenges that FinOps practitioners face, and as we look at the research, the results from the 2023 FinOps Foundation study, empowering engineers to take action is still at the top. And why do you think that is? And what could constitute this kind of empowerment?
Yeah, I think engineers actually have a lot of work to do. I think they have a lot of things that they need to accomplish, and there's competing priorities. So empowering an engineer really means that making it easier for an engineer to optimize costs. So there's ways that it can be done with existing processes, right? This means leveraging engineering's existing processes and workflows and tools. So for example, if you want engineers to think about and enable cost optimization or complete the work related to cost optimization, we need to start thinking about how can we put cost optimization tasks and prioritize them in their sprint planning, how we can use and leverage tools like Jira that engineers often use. And then there's a growing thought about shifting left in terms of enabling engineers to understand their costs as they code before they deploy it. So trying to lower the barrier for engineers to make the right choices in terms of cost earlier on is probably one of the best ways to empower them.
Oh, that's fantastic, Lindbergh. Thanks for sharing that. So now, as you think about FinOps practitioners and their backgrounds and how they came to be in these positions, do you typically find that they have more of a finance background or more of a technical background? Curious how they typically get to this role.
I've talked to a lot of FinOps practitioners, and I would say it's 50-50. I've met practitioners that started off their careers in finance and then are eventually leading FinOps programs. I've also met practitioners that started in a technical role and are now leading those FinOps programs. It really depends on where the individual's resource interests lie and where their experiences are. I think both finance and technical skills can be learned. What is really important really is the practitioner is inquisitive and they're able to ask questions, analyze the information, and then communicate that information in a manner that spurs action. I mean, those skill sets reside in both technical and financial backgrounds.
Terrific. Thanks so much for sharing this, Lindbergh. Now, are there any upcoming FinOps events where we can connect with the community, where people who are interested in this topic can learn more about FinOps?
Yeah, so there's a FinOps X, which is the FinOps Foundation's annual conference. It's going to be held this year in San Diego in June. So I encourage everyone who's interested in FinOps to go check that out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindbergh. Really appreciate your time today. This has been really terrific and very helpful. Looking forward to collaborating with you as this community grows.
Great. Thank you.